I hope you've already watched the first 2 episodes of the series Alien Earth. If not, then I have to warn you. In this video, of course, there will be spoilers since you're watching a breakdown of the show. So I suggest you first get acquainted with the project and then be sure to return to watch my analysis. At the moment, only 2 episodes have been released. And right now, it's difficult to draw any solid conclusions, especially to fully understand what really happened aboard the Maginot. We simply don't have enough information yet to sort through all the gaps and inconsistencies in the storyline. Nevertheless, I noticed several important details that expand the lore of the Xenomorphs and support the theory about their biocommunication on specific frequencies. It seems that the aliens are indeed exchanging signals, and Wendy is able to hear them. In addition, the unique properties of the electrobiogenic organism shown to us in Alien, Romulus turned out not to be a one-time case. Xenomorphs are capable of storing electricity within themselves, and this might explain their unusual metabolic cycle. My name is Evgeny, and today we're breaking down the series Alien Earth. I promise it's going to be interesting. Let's begin. So, I think it's best to begin with the starting point, the main mission of the spaceship Maginot. The research expedition lasted 65 years, which is a very long time. Since the events of the series take place in the year 2012-20, that means the deep space expedition began back in 20055. That's why we see such old equipment, the very first version of the computer mother, and the early modules of cryopods, exactly the same as in the film Alien from 1979. And of course, as a fan, I can't help but be delighted by that. The crew of the Maginot consists mostly of humans, 1 cyborg, and 1 synthetic named 10. How exactly, and most importantly where, the Weyland-Yutani Corporation discovered all of these invasive species, we still don't know, but it's unlikely they explored more than 100 planets. As for the Avomorphs themselves, they were clearly found inside the Juggernaut spacecraft on the planetoid LV-426, exactly the same way as in the very first Alien film. Several details point to this. The black color of the eggs and the crew's knowledge of the blue light, which somehow calms the Avomorph, preventing it from opening its petals and releasing the facehugger, even if a potential host is standing right nearby. If you've seen the previous films in this universe, then you've surely noticed that the alien eggs themselves are different. In James Cameron's second film, the Avomorphs appeared more alive, with a different coloration. The director explained this by saying that the eggs shown in the first film had been lying there for thousands of years, becoming semi-transparent and dark over time. He wanted to show what a young Avomorph really looks like, more alive, resembling the flesh of an animal. In the series, however, the Avomorphs are shown exactly as they were in the first Alien, which means they are thousands of years old. The second confirmation of this theory is the blue light. The Maginot crew consists mostly of highly trained specialists who prepared thoroughly for the mission. When discovering the alien spacecraft and its deadly cargo, they clearly studied the object and understood the properties of the blue light. That's why they used the same technology on their own ship. On top of that, we see the sheer number of eggs they managed to find. I believe that humans came to LV-426, studied the potential threat, and took as many eggs with them as they could. On board their ship, they recreated the blue light technology and began studying the organism. Judging by the footage we've seen, they were even able to extract a facehugger from an Avomorph egg and raise a fully grown alien using test animals as hosts. And considering the fact that Morrow clearly knew how to neutralize the creature by applying a strong electric charge, we can confidently say that the Maginot had already tried this before. They had conducted experiments on the alien. Morrow already had information that the creature was capable of sensing fear.
Just stay calm, friend. They can sense fear.
He knew exactly what he was facing, and he was prepared for the encounter, because aboard the spaceship they had been studying a fully grown xenomorph. This is further confirmed by the presence of the egg cluster. Humans tried to recreate the same conditions for growth that they had already witnessed on LV-426. Each egg sends out roots, forming a single connection. This is how the avomorphs communicate, signaling to one another about the presence of a potential host. The egg cluster was created by humans for research purposes. The Queen has nothing to do with it. There are no signs of her presence anywhere nearby. Secondly, most of the crew members were likely asleep for the majority of the expedition. I'm taking into account the age of each participant, but we also see that on the return journey to Earth, they would occasionally wake up, not only to eat, but also to check on and preserve the cargo. 65 years is a long flight. The organisms needed to be delivered alive. That's why Dr. Shibuzo often woke up to feed the test subjects. I believe only certain species, the ones stored in the cylindrical capsules. These capsules are equipped with quick access mechanisms, opening and closing with a sliding system. Other specimens, however, were transported in sealed boxes. I believe those creatures were frozen. In such a state, biological material can be transported for long periods of time, and they only awakened after the crash of the ship. Let me remind you that it was the Weyland-Yutani Corporation that first developed successful cryopod models, and they also created the technology to freeze living organisms. This is the very same technology that Parker requested to use when Kane was attacked by the facehugger.
How come you guys don't freeze him?
But the most important detail is the presence of biological characteristics of the creatures in the database. This means that the mission of the Maginot was not only to locate and transport invasive species, but also to study them. The facehuggers were placed in capsules. On the table, we see dissected animals. Dr. Chibuzo studied each test subject carefully and entered all of her observations into the database. I truly appreciate this approach. These are not the amateurs from Prometheus, and not the colonists from Alien Covenant. These are professional, well-prepared people. That's why I believe the crash of the ship was not due to crew error. Someone staged a sabotage. Already in the very first episode, we hear about communication problems, and after the crash, we learn that one of the expedition members was killed with a firearm.
You think he died in the crash?
He's been shot. 2 to the body, 1 to the head.
What exactly happened, we will of course find out in the next episodes, but I believe it was once again one of the synthetics following the orders of their company. The third detail, electroaccumulation. If you watched Alien Romulus, then you probably noticed one strange moment. When Bjorn tried to kill the alien that was still inside its cocoon, he passed an electric charge through it. The creature, of course, reacted to the threat. But the important part is not that. It's that afterwards, the organism somehow absorbed the electricity. There is a theory that the acidic blood might serve as an electrolyte. In essence, the Xenomorph generates electricity by itself, and it uses it as energy. The creature does not feed on flesh. It is capable of regulating its own metabolism, growth, and even shutting down all of its vital functions. Of course, there's no such thing as a perpetual motion machine. But in cinema, everything is possible. In the series, when Morrow neutralized the monster, we saw for just 1 second a surge of electricity. This means the Xenomorph absorbed the current. Electroaccumulation as a function of its organism is definitely present, but what exact role it plays we still don't know. I think the series will gradually reveal how experiments on the alien were conducted aboard the Maginot. The fourth detail, biocommunication. In none of the films have we been shown exactly how xenomorphs communicate with each other. In the second movie, we saw the Queen give commands to her soldiers, which means they clearly have their own language of communication. Some theories spoke of telepathy, others suggested the use of special pheromones, but the truth turned out to be much simpler. Did you notice Wendy's strange behavior? She is an android with human-like knowledge, a new generation, and the Prodigy Corporation is studying her and the other children. But what caught my attention was the sound experiment. Wendy is capable of hearing a very wide range of frequencies, far greater than that of a human. When she arrives at the crash site, she immediately notices a strange noise.
Do you hear that?
She hears it more than once, and especially loudly near the egg cluster. Somehow the avomorph sensed either a victim or a threat. and immediately sent a signal to their guardian. The Xenomorph heard the call and rushed to help. These xeno-organisms communicate using sounds on specific frequencies. How Wendy will use this later, we can only guess. But for me, this detail is extremely important. At last, we've received an answer about alien communication as a species. We don't know how many xenomorphs were actually aboard the Maginot. Clearly more than one, judging by the capsules we were shown. But the surviving part of the crew had enough time to notice the cargo leak. They even attempted a surgery to extract a chest burster. Perhaps things weren't as bad as they seemed. But someone decided simply to kill the survivors. Maybe Morrow assessed the situation in his own way. Every living human is a potential host for the parasite, and to reduce the risk, he simply chose to eliminate the entire crew. With the hosts dead, the facehuggers would no longer be able to implant the parasite. The rest of the invasive life forms escaped after the crash of the ship. And how many of them there are at this point is hard to say, but I'm already looking forward to seeing the full alien fauna, because what we've been shown so far is only a small part, just the tip of the iceberg. The most interesting part is yet to come. And if you're also a fan of the Alien universe and you noticed intriguing details while watching the series, share your observations in the comments.